The first module, the first video in this whole series is called the Leader Introduction, and that's intended for you, the business owner, or general manager, or whoever is in charge of running the training meetings. That's an important first step. You've got to understand how to engage your team in this process. Now, I'm going to give you some tips on how to look at your team in a little bit different way and start thinking about how you're going to direct them and where you want to take them in this whole process. That's the Leader Introduction. Now, lesson number 1 is a combination of the material that you'll find in various places on my website here, but I've pulled it all together into one piece called The Origin of No. It's really what happened. What happened to the families? They used to come in and buy traditional things. They don't anymore. What happened? You may understand because you've gone to the seminars, you've studied people's material, but your staff doesn't. They just see the end result. So lesson 1 deals with the origin of no, what happened. Lesson 2 deals then with understanding the new client. You've got to engage them in a very different way. That's lesson 2. Lesson 3 is effective communication. That's kind of a baseline of content on a lot of the things that people can do right or wrong in order to communicate with another person, whether it be on the phone, whether it be via a website, whether it be face-to-face, all the things that people can do right or wrong. There's a good 30 to 40 minutes of content just on effective communication. That's kind of a foundational piece for a lot of the other things that we're going to build on in the future videos. Number 4 is packaging your business. And that specifically deals with the issue of if all things are equal, the deciding criteria is price. If you watch my materials, you know that's something you hear in a lot of my pieces. If all things are equal, the deciding criteria is price. Packaging your business is how you address that issue. Now, number 5 is preparing for families. There are so many things that you can do, right or wrong, before that family even walks in the door. There's a lot of things that can be done. So I'm going to cover some of those things in the Preparing for Families. What can you do? Number 6 and number 7 are called Engaging Families, Part 1 and Part 2. It's too big of a topic to cover in just one module, so I split it up. Part 1 deals with things like price shoppers. And I know that's one of the biggest thorns in your side. I deal with that in Part 1 of that 2-video set. Part 2 deals specifically with the arrangement process. Specific things that you can say, specific things to look for, specific things to listen for in that arrangement process to help it go in the best way possible. Now, lesson 8 is delivering the experience. Now, if you've attended the seminars and everything, you've heard about this thing called the experience economy. You know that you're in the experience economy now, but you don't necessarily, or your team rather, doesn't necessarily know what that means. So first I've got to give them some fundamental material on the experience economy, but then I've got to show them how do you apply that? What do you do? How do you conduct yourself as you're in the experience economy instead of the way you did in the service economy? So I cover that in video 8. Lesson 9 is community relations. Your business has always and will always thrive or die based upon your relationships in the local community. But the way you cultivate those relationships has changed dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years, especially the last 5 years. The internet has changed how you cultivate relationships, not just around the world, but right next door. So I cover some of that content in that video on community relations. And then video number 10 is the road ahead. My view on what's coming in the next 3 to 10 years that can present amazing opportunities for you if you take advantage of them, and it really kind of get the team pumped up on, wow, it's not all doom and gloom. There are huge opportunities sitting out there if we prepare ourselves. So that's the whole series. Now my job in that series is to present the content and do as best I can to illustrate it and give you assignments along the way and really give your team some information that they can use. Your job, though, as the business owner or general manager, is then to lead the discussion of how you're going to apply the concepts that I talk about in the videos. I'm talking about concepts that are really kind of horizontal. They work across the board in the country, but I can't guarantee it's going to work in your community because what I can guarantee is there are differences. You know, what works in Iowa and what works in Washington State is different. Florida and Ohio are different. There are different markets. So you've got to be able to look at it and objectively watch the videos with your team and say, what can we glean out of this? Let's not assume John's 100% right, but what if he's 90% right? What can we glean out of this in order to change the way we engage families in our local market? So that's your job then, is to take this material and then apply it to your market and say, how are we going to change? That's your job in this whole process. Now, out of this, you're going to get, fundamentally, you'll get change. If you don't want change, this is probably not a good video series for you. If you would like to change your business because you've come to the realization that you need to do something different, then this is a good video series. You're going to get change. You're going to get your team actively engaged in that change process. Because if they don't own it, they're not going to run with it. They'll just go back to old habits. You've got to actively engage them, and that's what this is all about, is to get your team actively engaged in the transformation process.